Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to another episode of Why We Play the Game. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the types of campaigns or one-shots that we run, whether they be what people refer to as a railroad or a sandbox. Now, real quick, for those of you who might not know what that is, a railroad is akin to the dungeon modules and pre-written adventures of old, and even today they're still put out, where a set scenario and storyline is written up by someone, whether that be the dungeon master or some writer out there in TV land, and the chosen dungeon master, game master, referee, or what have you, will then run that campaign, that one shot, that adventure module, that setting from beginning to end with little to no alterations. I know there'll be people out there who say, well, I change my modules, my pre-written adventures a lot, etc. Cool, that's fine, but it's still a railroad. No matter how much you change it, you are dictating what can and cannot happen well in advance of the player's actions, and maybe you try to justify that by allowing for multiple options along the way and different things like that. That's still what we affectionately or not so affectionately call a railroad. And I'm not here to bag on either the railroad or the sandbox. As a matter of fact, I'm here to advocate for a mixture, a combination of the two. But the railroad or the pre-written adventure is a very useful and helpful tool for allowing new game masters, new referees, new dungeon masters, whatever you want to call yourselves, a format, a tool to use to guide you through and get you used to the process of running a game. And in the past, I did use modules. I still have scores of them from days of old and hang on to them for, lots of reason, nostalgia, the monetary value that they would garner if I were ever in a position where I needed to make some quick cash. I could easily sell them for quite a bit of money. There's a reason they're so valuable, and I'm not going to go into that, but that's just the facts. They're worth a lot of money, and while you can get reprints on places like Drive-Thru, etc., I'm not a big fan of them anymore. As a matter of fact, I stopped running modules and pre-written adventures 35 plus years ago. The exact number is irrelevant, but I stopped using them in favor of being my own master, being my own creator, as it were, of my own vision of the game universe that I want to run. A universe that includes more than 50 galaxies. They're all pretty well written out and ready for play, but that's still a bit of a railroad, and I'll explain why in just a moment. Now, the sandbox is supposed to be a large open area for the players to explore and for them to decide where they're going to go next, but it's a bit of an illusion. The sandbox is still a confined space, no matter how big and how wide you make it. Even my universe that's, innumerable light years from side to side, top to bottom, blah, blah, blah. It's already written up, and I've already, placed things here and there and throughout the scope of the game that places you can go, even to the alternate dimensions, the elemental planes, and blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. Because you shouldn't. In your own game universe, you're the supreme dictator of your universe. You decide what is and what isn't, what can and what can't be, and you may not be aware of it, but you've kind of already created a bit of your own railroad by putting up those walls to keep that sand in. You've limited where you can go and where you can't go, what is and what can't be, and for me, I over the past 6 months, 9 months, whatever it's been that I've been chatting with you guys on TV Land, YouTube, whatever you want to call it, Discord, etc. I've come to the realization that what's needed is a little bit of both. Now, there's some people out there who like to run a little bit more of a democratic situation where everybody gets to be a part of, where the walls are, so to speak, what's allowed and what's not allowed, and then there are people out there that are not having any of that. They're in charge, and it's their game, and the players are not going to be dictating anything to the dungeon master, the referee, etc. Blah blah blah. I kind of get all of it. I understand that there's a desire for the players sometimes to be a little bit more in charge than days of old, but there's also those dungeon masters pushing back. Otherwise, what's the dungeon master for? Just a little more than a vague facilitator of just a set of game rules with no creativity, no input on the universe, letting the players decide what aliens exist, what's in their pocket, what's around the corner. Personally, I want to have some say in the matter. I want to describe a place I want to be someday. I would love to be able to go to my own game universe and explore it, as for the first time, and see what it's really like to be in my own game world. Obviously, that's not really a possibility. Maybe someday we'll figure out some sort of way to do that, but who knows? Maybe when you die and go to heaven, like in the movie What Dreams May Come, maybe that's where you get to go. For us dungeon masters, we get to go and explore our own game universe until we tire of that after quadrillions of years of the afterlife. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, and a little bit of hope. Big fan of that movie. If you couldn't tell, I know a lot of people hate it, but I like that movie, and I like the idea of being somewhat in charge. I want to show off my vision, as it were, but I don't mind players having a lot of free will in the game. Now, in your typical sandbox, there are places that you set down, as whether it be a town, a city, a mountain range, or a dungeon. You've probably drawn up or thought up what's there. And once the players have stopped wandering around the wilderness and decide to go into one of those locations, very much like Disneyland, when you walk through the front gates, you get to choose where you go, but as soon as you step in line for one of those rides, you're on the railroad. You're going to get to sit back, watch the ride, experience the ups and the downs, the twists and the turns, the popping out of Mr. Toad on his wild ride, the abominable snowman from the Matterhorn, those things like that. But there's really little more you can do but sit back and enjoy the ride, and that's very much like most games. You can wander around, but then once you step in line, once you get on that ride and you buckle in, you're pretty much at the whim of the dungeon master, that being formerly Walt Disney himself, and his vision, and you get to experience what he wanted to show you. And that's the same way it is with a normal sandbox. As soon as you agree to go on a mission, or to go into the dungeon, or to wander around the town, you're kind of in a railroad. Now, you may have a lot more freedom to move about the town, the dungeon, the city, the mountain range, and decide, turn left, turn right, but any good dungeon master worth his salt has already drawn those things out, sketched them up, gridded them out, maybe taken some scribble notes, and that's about it. But, he's or she is still pretty much in charge of that part of the railroad, and you kind of have to deal with it unless you want to go a full democratic, almost communistic approach to role-playing, which I know a lot of people just aren't ready for that. A lot of dungeon masters refuse to, hand over the reins to the players, and I, for the most part, am in agreement. I don't want to be at the whims of my players. I will play in other people's games, and I'll enjoy the hell out of it, and I'll take it for what it is, and enjoy the ride where it is a ride. And when I get to make those choices, I will delude myself into thinking that I had a choice, when deep down I know that that's really not the case. I just can't get 100% on board the idea of my players to my left and my right having a say in what is and what isn't, because at some point it's just going to devolve into chaos and nothing better than a tune game. And if you guys don't know what that is, I suggest you do a little bit of research, look it up. And I don't really want to be a part of that. I've played tune. It's good for a laugh, but I'm a campaign player. I want to be in a campaign. I want to know that the game is going to go on for a good long time, as opposed to a one-shot, which, don't get me wrong, one-shots are fun, two-shots, whatever you want to call them. Jade's game last week and the week before was a blast. For me, though, it was mostly about the players, including Jade himself, of course, as a dungeon master, more than the actual story. The story was rather quick, rather short, and by the end of the first night, I knew what needed to be done, and it was just a matter of me, trying to convince the players we had but one option. And that was because that's how it was written, that's how it was meant to be. And at the end, we were all very happy for the ride. Just like going to a movie theater, you have absolutely no choice but to go or not go. To enter the theater, to buy the popcorn, to buy the soda, the snacks, whatever. Sit down, shut up, and enjoy the ride. Because that's what it all really boils down to. Now, you may disagree, you may agree, you may think you have a different point of view. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear what you say about it. For me, I'm going to continue playing the way I want to play, regardless of what other people think. I'm going to run some sandboxes. I'm going to run some railroads. I'm going to play in some sandboxes. I'm going to play in some railroads because it's playing. Playing is a game. Playing is a diversion. Playing is for fun. Unless you're getting paid to play and you're in some sort of tournament or competitive situation, you're playing. Playing is what children do. And let's face it, we're all the biggest of children out there with our mountains of miniatures and our libraries full of books that most people would have absolutely no idea what to do with other than to sell them, make a quick buck, and be on with whatever their idea of fun is. But for us gamers out there, if you're not in it for some type of fun, I don't understand. I'm happy to admit that I'm a big kid playing in a big kid's world with bigger kids and enjoying the hell out of a let's face it, a silly old game of pretend let's pretend and make believe. We just have rules and we've structured it so that our grown up, for the most part, minds have something more to latch onto than the whim of the guys to our left or right's opinion of, no, you missed me, no, I have a rope-proof vest, you couldn't hurt me, blah, blah, blah. We've got rules, and for the most part, it's a pretty damn interesting phenomenon that's overtaken us as we've gone through this journey from the late 70s to the current day. The idea of playing games is only bigger than it's ever been. It's never been this big. It's a massive multi-billion-dollar industry, whether it be video games, card games, or role-playing games, or board games, what have you. You're never too old to play a game, and you're never too old to have fun. And if you are, maybe you might want to think about why. For me, I'm going to keep playing. I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it. I'm going to be grateful for every moment I get to play, and I'm going to be grateful for all the great gamers out there who I get to play with, and the great DMs that I get to play under. And for that, I thank you, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little discussion. If you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section or my email address, or you want to save it for the next time I'm on a live stream somewhere out there in TV land. I'm more than ready to discuss it. Don't take it too seriously. Don't take it to heart too much. This is just, the thoughts of a rambling old kid in a grown man's body. So until next time, I love you guys. See you soon.